in front of an audience. Let him hear it. Let's do that. Joe Bonamassa here on Sirius XM Radio live in front of an audience. Another fine episode of Different Shades of Blue. Today, it is my supreme honor to sit down and have a chat with one of my all-time guitar heroes, songwriting heroes, singing heroes, and again, I'm the biggest Simpsons fan in the world, and this man was directly involved with one of my favorite episodes ever. I am talking about the one, the only Mr. Peter Frampton. I must preface this, I've watched Homer Palooza probably 1,000 times, and your involvement in that episode, to me is still, as a fan of that show, is in my top 5 episodes of all time because of your involvement and your voiceover. And by the way, it's not easy to do voiceovers like that, and you nailed it. I had to get that off my chest because I rarely meet a living Simpsons character. You've been Simpsons. You are in the Hall of Legends of the highest order as a Simpsons fan. So that's all I have to do. We don't have to broadcast that. I just have to get that off my chest.
That's great. Thank you. Yeah, I really enjoyed doing that. You know, it was fun because we're all, you know, huge Simpsons fans. And when they called me up and said, would you like to be a Simpsons character, I said, I think you got the wrong number. And this was not in a particularly visible period of my career. And so, and then I asked the lady, Bonnie Patia, who was the casting director, and she said, I said, so what's the thing? Well, you will be the headline of like a Lollapalooza concert. And I said, but I wouldn't be, I get it, it's a joke. So, and I said, now I know what you want. You want me to be the old, crusty, been there, done that, fed up, bored rock star. And I said, how did you know?
I had to say that my girlfriend and I were just, it's one of our favorite episodes. And she made it a point, because she couldn't be here, she was, if you sit down with Peter Frampton, you have to ask him about the episode. So thank you for,
no, that's okay. And I had fun doing it, so that was great.
So, I would say this, as a guitarist, a fan of music, your involvement in 2 of my top 10 records of all time is not lost on me. What an honor it is to talk to you and ask you about these albums. I'm referring to Humble Pie, Rockin' the Fillmore.
Right.
Simply the greatest blues rock, rock and roll, sleazy, in-your-face album all time. That would be enough to get anybody in the Hall of Fame. Not yet. And then, a few years later, come out with one of the greatest records ever made, regardless if it was live or not. Frampton Comes Alive, which sold. One of the things I did want to ask you is because I have no perspective, nobody has a perspective of being a superstar. You're a superstar. When you made Frampton Comes Alive, when you listen to the final product, you go, yeah, I think we may have something here. Did you think it was going to become what it became?
No, but the thing is that the band was at that point where we were so ready to record, you know. We've been touring, the personnel changed one person, but we've been touring incessantly since I left Humble Pie. So that was the period where we just said, let's do what we did with Humble Pie, because it seems like the audience are were drawing more people and going down better than the album sales, you know, so we thought, well, it worked with Humble Pie, let's follow that template. And so we did. We thought, as with Humble Pie, we had a studio record called Rock On, which was our first sort of decent selling album, studio record,
right.
And with Glyn Johns. And then we decided for the next tour we would make that out, the Rock at the Fillmore album. And it was our first, it was gold. So it sold 500,000 copies. But I left the band right before it came out. But so I saw what happened. So I in my own way thought, well, this might be, we might double out, because Frampton was like Rock On. It was my best, I feel it was my best studio record up until that point. And then we just, that all of a sudden went up to being gold, and the live album just took off.
Do you find, because I mean, one of the most endearing qualities of Frampton Comes Alive is the vitality not only of the band, but of the audience listening to the band.
Yes.
Did you find that after the record came out, that your audience, by sheer almost osmosis, were emulating the crowd on the record? They were cheering in the same spots. And
well, there's in the acoustic spot, which was done not in Winterland, it was done around the corner. I'll remember it in a minute, but because the acoustics were better, more like this from Marin Civic Center. And but in the middle of the song, someone lets off a firecracker. And so still to this day, people come, if I do that number, Wind of Change, I just go, bang, okay. So, it blew me away and people kind of learned their part from the album.
Right, it's almost like the most audience participation you can get, because they listen to the record. It's part of the sound. They're trying to recreate the sound in their minds of everything.
Well, you don't see it, but there's just before I start the tour book section on Do You Feel on Comes Alive, there's a big roar, and nobody could see that I actually took my clothes off at that point.
So here's something I always wanted to ask you, because, and maybe the myth is better than me even asking the question, was the album a compilation of different nights, or was it one night? And the other thing is, how many people actually saw that gig or those gigs?
Right.
How many people were in the room?
Okay, well, Winterland is the bulk of it. It's like 85–90% of the whole album is one night. Then the three acoustic numbers come from Marin Civic Center, which was 2 nights before. And then we went, because I hadn't really, I'm on my 5th album now with A&M, and Jerry Moss was the phenomenal president of any label, and but today no one would stay with you for 5 records, you know. So management and I said, let's just do a single live album because of the budget, you know, like we don't want to push our luck. So Jerry Moss, a wonderful man, and he comes into Electric Lady, and we play in the whole, both sides of the single album. And I just remember his head coming up in front of the console, looking around, he said, "Where's the rest?" You know, so we said, well, we didn't want to do, you know, go berserk. So then we went out and recorded about 5 or 6 more shows to get the newer numbers, Baby I Love Your Way, Show Me the Way, stuff like that.
Right.
So
wow, you know, it's one of those things where you must, at that point you go, it was just a compilation of events that all of a sudden, you know, within 2 years you're playing stadiums and you're the #1 selling artist in the world. It's not just in the genre. In the world. I mean, did you find yourself embracing it, or did you find yourself like, well, like this level of fame, which only a few iconoclast type of stars ever achieve, where you can't walk down the street without a mob? Did you find yourself going, man, this is a little bit more than I signed up for, I just want to be a guitar player, give me my Les Paul and a Marshall. You know what I mean?
Yeah, no, it was, it got to the point where it was a little crazy, and I think what I was feeling at that point, well, first of all, I got the call that, you know, we'd made #1 in the Billboard charts and all the others of those days. And then about 3 weeks to a month later, I got the call that we had we were the biggest selling album ever, which means we broke the Carole King's record of, I think it was 6,500,000. We'd sold 6,700,000 or something.
Right.
And I've never met Carole King, but I know she doesn't like me. But anyway, I don't like Garth Brooks. No. So, but no. So anyway, it was. I forgot the question.
No, I mean that level of fame.
Oh,
you
yeah.
know, not many people get to experience that, and you know, some people find it very isolating. And you know, it's like sometimes it's one of those things. Be careful what you wish for. Man, this thing worked out better than I thought.
Yes.
Because every artist is out there shooting for the fences. They want to sell as many records, play in front of as many people as possible. But then sometimes the magic bullet hits, and everything is like, whoa, this is crazy. You know,
Well,
this level of fandom.
Yep. I think the thing that I felt most after we got the call that you know, it was now the record-breaking record, I got nervous. I got scared.
Right.
And because how do you follow that up? Now I can't do another live record. Oh, I could, but why would you do that straight away? I don't have enough material.
Right.
It took me 6 years worth of material, Humble Pie, and then through all my solo records to have enough material. So now I have 3 months to go and write a studio record. You know?
That tops the greatest selling album of all time.
And I actually said to everybody, I don't think we should go, like, they all had this experience, you know, management, record company, business manager, and all that sort of stuff for other artists. This wasn't any other artist. This was something precedent setting. And therefore, I think, I always liken this situation to the Eagles in as much as, if you think about it, the Eagles have not had the 50 albums you think they've had. They've had a few very choice, successful albums because they never went near the studio until they had incredible material.
Right, exactly. It's the songs.
And it's all in the songs. It's all in the songs. And playing can be great, obviously, but if you want to have a big album, it's got to be deep with great songs.
Exactly.
And I didn't see any way that I was going to be able to come up with anything to beat Comes Alive. That was the thing. I was nervous about that. Right. So I should have been all relaxed and, oh, hey, everybody loves me now, and you do this, but it's like, oh, you know, what do I do now? So
it's a pressure cooker.
Yeah, it is pressure.
I have this thing that I do. I'm a hopelessly addicted guitar buyer.
I've noticed.
Thank you. And hopeless, riddled with addiction. Can't get enough guitars. I have way more for 18 lifetimes. And I have this term that I do on the road just to kind of, you know, kill the boredom. I call it guitar safari. And a guitar safari is basically any guitar-related story that is special in some way. And to me, if I was asked in an interview, what the greatest guitar safari story of all time, I would refer to your guitar. The infamous, now famous, triple pickup Black Beauty Les Paul that was lost for, what, 40 years?
32 years.
32 years,
yeah.
And miraculously found and given back to you. Now, I have two questions. How did you get the guitar originally? And when they found it, were you like, how did it, like, what did it feel like to finally have it back in your hands? Because you play it now live. What was it like to have your old friend come back to you after 32 years?
Well, when I first saw someone's found it. It went. We had in South America. We had a plane crash with the gear was on board. Not us, unfortunately, but there were people obviously on board, and so losing the equipment didn't really mean anything at the time. It was about the loss of life. But then I said, "Oh, wait a second. Was my guitar on there?" And he said, "It's all gone. Everything, the whole gear, PA, monitors, drums, everything's gone." And it was it never got off the runway. And but the thing was, when my tech went down there a week later, because we had to go on and play and get more gear and stuff, and he went down there and said, "Well, what's left?" They said nothing, but there was a guard there from the insurance company who had the tail had broken off, and all the guitars were slightly singed, but in the tail section. And so he took them home and he sold them, you know. So when he was supposed to guard them.
Good job.
So anyway, so I thought, well, it's gone, everybody, and then Gibson very nicely finally made me one that looked like it, and we worked a year on that thing to try and make it sound like I remembered it, you know. But they don't sound the same. But anyway, so I get this email, and I see in like 2008, I think, and there's 12 forensically taken shots of my guitar. Pickups in, pickups out, knobs off, backplate off. The guy had taken it apart and to send it to me. And so he sent it to me, and I screamed, you know, like, oh my God, I knew it was mine.
You just knew it, yeah.
I knew because I made some of the awful marks inside the center pickup thing. And I knew it so well, you know, because I'd already put my own pickups and whatever in it and stuff over the years. And so then it took 2 years for them to believe that we weren't going to have them arrested when they brought it back to the country, because it was now been sold a couple of times.
Right.
And so we finally got them to come up to New York, to Nashville, and I had a hotel room there. I wasn't living there at the time, and then the guy came in and brought the Minister of Tourism from Curacao, which is where it ended up, which is an island off Caracas, Venezuela. And so this luthier had seen this kid come in with the guitar, and he said, "Can you make this playable?" Because it wasn't playable. You know? And his dad was the one that bought it, so we're now another generation into it. So he brings it in, wants to play it, and the luthier says, "Leave it with me overnight," because he knew what it was, you know. And so he took all the pictures, and then gave it back to the kid in the morning, and he said, "You know what this is, don't you? And whose this is?" And he said, "Yeah, give me the guitar." Ran off.
Right, they get scared.
So you got scared.
What year is it?
Well, we took it straight, when we got it back, we took it, Walter Carter was there, all the
All the guys. Yeah.
all the guys, Gruen was there. We went straight from the hotel to Gibson, to the custom shop, and they all looked at it, you know, all this, you know, and it's either a 54 or a 55 Black Beauty,
Right.
which is what I knew it was, but not the year, I didn't know.
And you got it during your time with Humble Pie?
We were playing the Fillmore West, and I had just sold, or not sold, you only ever had one guitar in those days because you couldn't afford the next one, you know, so you part exchanged from, I had an SG with the nice wooden tail,
Right.
62, and I was playing that and loving it, and then I thought, I'd like to get a 335. Well, I exchanged it with someone. He wanted an SG, I wanted a 335. So we go to play at the Fillmore West, and we didn't get a sound check because we were opening. So when we got to play, every time I turned up for a solo, we played so loud that it was my solos of, that was it. That's all I got out of me. And so So I stopped playing in the end, and then this guy who we'd made friends with a couple of times we'd been there, Mark Mariano from San Francisco, he came up to me and said, "Couldn't help notice you're having a bit of a trouble there with that guitar. So I have a Les Paul, would you like to borrow it tomorrow?" So I said, "I'm not really big on Les Pauls, but okay, anything at this point." So he brings what we now call the Phoenix, because it rose from the ashes. And so he brought me the Phoenix, which he put all the pickups on it, changed them from the old style P90s to the 3 humbuckers, and sent it back to Gibson to finish it, refinish it. And he'd also shaved the neck and shaved the body, so it's a little smaller all round than most Les Pauls. And so he brought it to the hotel the following morning and opened the case in the coffee shop, and I just went, oh, because it looked like a brand new 57,
right.
3 pickup. So I took it up to the room, started playing it, didn't stop playing it all day, and he said, "Please use it for the 3 or 4 shows we were doing." So at the end, I play it, which is the second night now. The first night was the woo, and and now I can turn up and I'm right there, and it's all of a sudden it's me, and I don't think my feet touch the ground the whole night, And at the end of the 4-night stay, I said to Mark, "Thank you so much." I gave it back to him and I said, "I don't think there's any chance that you'll sell this. I just have this feeling, And he said, "No, I'm going to give it to you."
Wow. It's still, to me, the greatest story that, all guitars find their way home eventually, and it's the fact that when I first read that you got it back, I was so happy for you.
Thank you.
And one of the things I wanted to ask you is I owe you a debt of gratitude, because in 2002 you were gracious enough to have our band open up for you for your I believe it was the fall tour.
Right.
And we did maybe 25 or 30 shows. And your audience in particular, there's two audiences that to me always was able to connect with when I was playing as an opera. One was B.B. King and the other Peter Frampton. And one of the things that I learned early on by watching your organization and operation is how to tour. I really looked at everyone and how you carried yourself, how you presented the show.
Right.
And I go, first of all, I don't have these songs. I don't have a show. And you were really, and I never told you this, but you were extraordinarily instrumental in my career and in influencing me to put together a show.
Oh, wow.
And to see the gig as an entire experience from the start to the finish. So I always wanted to, just say that to you personally.
Thank you.
How do you go about, because you have such a vast catalog of songs that you can pull from, and there's a few that if you don't play them, people get mad.
Yes.
It's, that's what they want. And how do you go about putting a set list together? I mean, with an entire, 45 years worth of great material, you could start a gig now and next Tuesday if you want. But how do you truncate that to 2 hours and 15 minutes?
I think there's great records, and there's great records that make great live songs. Certain records don't translate to live as well.
Right.
So first of all, I know which ones for me are going to work live, and then it's just a case of building a show like you're talking about from beginning to end. And it has a beginning rise to it, then it sort of levels out, and then there might be something else that comes down a bit, and then you take it. There's a certain point where you want to take it from here up to here, and then we're ending up here, and give away my secrets. No, but that's it. And I learned this from being in humble pie, because there was a we just started working with Premier Talent, which was Frank Barcelona, who was the biggest agent in the world at that time, and our manager, Dee Anthony. And so we were playing the Fillmore East for the first time, and they both came, and they saw our set, which was probably 40 minutes as the opener, you know. And so we went to the deli next door, because there were two shows, like there was like the 7 o'clock show and then the 11:30, 12 o'clock show. And so we went there to pass the time. And Frank Barcelona, who I have to credit with this, he said, you know, there's one number that you're doing in this act that if you moved it from this spot to this spot, I think it would make a huge difference in the build, you know. And it was Hallelujah, I Love Her So. Right. And it was a very, one of our best numbers, you know. Right. But we didn't realize it. Right. We were just, well, we don't want to do it, we'll do it here, you know. So we moved it to where he said, and we all looked at each, because the audience reaction to the whole show changed. And from that moment on, I said, ooh, this is really important, you know. Yeah. And we were just learning, you know.
It's funny, the difference in one song placement in a show. It's like, you know, we try to do a 2-hour and 15-minute gig, you know, and if I write a bad set list, those 2 hours and 15 minutes is like a slow death march. Right. Conversely, if you write a good set list, 2 hours and 15 minutes goes by fast.
Yes, yes.
And it's not like we're trying to get the show over with.
No.
It's you're going, wow, this to the band and the audience, it feels violent and it feels, you know, it's just one of those things. One of the things I would be remiss if I didn't ask you was tell me a little bit about Steve Marriott, and you're one of the greatest rock singers of all time. And Humble Pie had two of the best, you and Steve Marriott. And like, what was it like singing with him?
Intimidating.
A man with seemingly infinite range.
Yes, the man could hit like any and more, you know, which is very high. Well, first time I saw Steve on Ready Steady Go, which was our Friday night rock program in the 60s. I saw him on that doing What You Gonna Do About It, which was the first Small Faces hit single, and they did it live. And the energy was, you know, it was unbelievable, and his voice. And I just looked, and halfway through I just said to myself, I'd really like to play guitar behind him. You know? Right. And because I put him up there with Chris Cornell, and people like that, who Chris Cornell is one of my all-time favorite singers, you know. And there's a few others that I really think are in that category. And but working with him was, he wanted it to be a democratic situation and wanted us all to sing and do that. So it was great. He was, but then, you know, if there was a moment where I said, why didn't you sing this? Yeah, right. You know, because it was our, he was our secret weapon. Not so secret, but I mean, he was one of the world's, as you said, world's greatest singers and communicators to the audience. Sometimes he wasn't that polite to the audience, but if he was having a bad night, but he knew how to rile a crowd up and get them in the palm of his hand. And I learned so much from him as a musician, as a singer, and as to building a show. He was good at that too.
Yeah, that's great. Peter, I'd just like to thank you for being our guest today, and to say what an honor it is to have you on board, and to do gigs and to see you again, and thank you from the bottom of my heart. It's just an honor and a privilege to have you on board. Thank you for being here. Ladies and gentlemen, Peter.